In South Korea, there's a man, infamously known as a psychopathic demon, who deceived the entire nation. This man is Lee Young-hak, a 35-year-old who, suffering from a rare disease, became widely known to the public as Molar Daddy through various TV programs. He gained sympathy and even received donations because of his illness. His daughter, who inherited the same rare disease, was often featured alongside him, adding to the public's sympathy. Hiding behind the mask of a loving father who tearfully sought help for his daughter on TV, Young-hak committed horrendous acts. As we delve deeper into his story, be prepared for some shocking revelations. So let's begin. The tragedy began on September 30th, 2017, when 15-year-old Yaeon reconnected with a friend surnamed Kim, an old friend from elementary school, who she hadn't seen in over a year after going to different middle schools. No one could have anticipated what would happen next. The drink and supplements Kim received from her friend were laced with a lethal dose of sleeping pills for a 15-year-old. 3 hours later, Kim fell asleep, and Yaeon left the house, leaving her alone with her father. She had prearranged plans to meet other friends. Meanwhile, Kim's mother, worried about not being able to reach her daughter, called her friends, including Yaeon, but noticed nothing suspicious. Eventually, Kim's parents reported her missing and sought police assistance. The police did not conduct an immediate search, and during this time, Kim was murdered by Young-hak, Yaeon's father. He called his daughter back home, and together they disposed of Kim's body in a remote mountain area in Yeongwol, Gangwon Province. The police contacted Kim's parents 24 hours after the initial report, and a full investigation began 36 hours later. On the afternoon of October 1st, a day after the incident, CCTV footage captured an adult male and Yaeon carrying a black travel bag from their house and loading it into a car trunk. The police used a ladder truck to enter the house but couldn't find the missing girl. Upon identifying the homeowner, they discovered it was Young-hak, who was already under investigation for his wife's death a month earlier. On the fourth day of the search, October 4th, the police reclassified the missing person case as a criminal investigation. The next morning, they apprehended Young-hak and his daughter at a villa in Dobongdong, Dobong District. Both were found unconscious from an overdose of sleeping pills. During the police interrogation, Young-hak initially spoke incoherently and denied the crime, but eventually confessed, saying, "I killed her." The body of the missing girl was later found naked in the mountains. Why did he kill his middle school daughter's friend? Surprisingly, this man was a well-known figure, having appeared on various TV shows, which made his arrest for murder all the more shocking. Young-hak suffered from a rare disease called a gigantiform cementoma, which only 6 people worldwide are known to have. Gigantiform cementoma causes large tumors to grow in the gums and tooth roots, which can become so large that they deform the face and cause breathing difficulties. Young-hak had suffered from this disease since he was 9 years old, undergoing multiple surgeries to remove the tumors, which left him with only 1 molar. This earned him the nickname Molar Daddy. Tragically, his daughter, Yaeon, inherited the same rare disease. Out of the 6 people in the world with this condition, 2 were from the same family in South Korea. Their story was heart-wrenching to anyone who heard it. Young-hak frequently appeared on TV programs, sharing the story of his and his daughter's rare disease and their financial struggles. He appealed for help to cover surgery costs, which elicited sympathy and financial support from many people. His appearances on shows, which even helped him open a chicken restaurant, and his pleas for donations touched many hearts. He published a book titled Molar Daddy, and even performed in a mascot costume in foreign countries' Korean communities to raise funds. His portrayal as a loving father deeply moved people. However, the revelation of the Molar Daddy case began to uncover his true nature. The first shocking revelation to the public was a photo he posted on his social media, showing him covered in tattoos and smoking, contrasting sharply with his previous image as a devoted father fighting to cure his daughter. This image alone shocked many people. Further investigations and testimonies revealed more disturbing details. Employees of the chicken restaurant, funded by donations, testified that Young-hak rarely showed up for work and frequently sexually harassed the female staff. His former classmates described him as a troublemaker since middle school, who once boasted about luring and sexually assaulting elementary school children. His life took a turn when his father's business went bankrupt and his parents divorced, leaving him in a broken home. By the time he met his wife and had his daughter, they were in severe financial hardship. However, their lives improved significantly once he began receiving donations. From 2005 to 2017, Young-hak collected over 1.2 billion won, which is around $1 million in donations. And astonishingly, only a tenth of this money was actually spent on his daughter's medical expenses. Before the murder, Young-hak had 11 prior convictions, mostly for fraud, but none for sexual offenses. Lee said he committed the crime to satisfy his sexual desires. But was this the first time he's done something like this? The police investigated his internet postings. From 2016, traces were found in his social media posts, where he sought people aged 14 to 20 to live together. It is clear that a middle-aged man recruiting runaway teenagers has dangerous intent. Young-hak was a psychopath who exploited people's sympathy to get what he wanted, a monster in sheep's clothing. So let's reconstruct the events of that tragic day. Before the incident, Lee told his daughter, "I need someone to replace your mother. If any of your friends have troubled homes or bad relationships with their parents, let me know." When his daughter handed him her phone with photos of her friends, Lee pointed to Kim, saying, "She looks like your deceased mother. Bring her home as soon as possible." Lee and his daughter meticulously planned how to lure Kim and what to do after bringing her home. They prepared 2 bottles labeled as vitamin supplements, one of which contained sleeping pills. Lee's daughter then lured Kim by saying, "Come to our house and let's watch a movie together." After his daughter Yeon followed her father's instructions and handed her friend the drink, Young-hak instructed his daughter to leave the house. This meant that Young-hak and the sleeping girl were left alone in the house. And Young-hak, who was next to her, couldn't control his hideous sexual desire and started to molest her by taking off her clothes. Later, it was revealed that the National Forensic Service found evidence of abuse, inserting objects into her body. But no signs of sexual assault were found. The next day, the girl regained consciousness. However, Young-hak feared that she would report him, so he strangled her with a necktie and a towel, and she passed away. Her death is estimated to have occurred between 11:55 a.m. and 1:44 p.m. Young-hak then placed her body in a large black travel bag, which he and his daughter Yeon carried to the car trunk. He even made sure to remove the black box from the car. Then he drove at 200 kilometers per hour towards Yeongwol in Gangwon province and abandoned her body near a valley. At first, Young-hak denied everything. He claimed that Kim had accidentally taken sleeping pills at his house, which led to her death, and insisted he was innocent. But as the investigation went on, he eventually confessed to his crimes. Why did Young-hak, who had strong sexual desires and obsessions from a young age, but no prior sexual violence convictions, suddenly become a predator and murderer? As the investigation progressed, more of his bizarre behaviors came to light, raising further suspicions. A month before the incident, Young-hak's wife passed away, but how she died was strange. In the dead of night, in a quiet residential alley, a horrific scene unfolded. Someone had fallen from a 5-story building. That person was Young-hak's wife. Despite CPR at the scene and being rushed to the hospital, she didn't survive. Why did she fall? Young-hak claimed that she jumped. He explained that his wife had been sexually abused by his stepfather, which is her father-in-law, for 8 years, and he recently found out. On the day she died, she was assaulted again and couldn't bear the guilt, leading her to take her own life. Young-hak's stepfather, however, insisted that while he had sexual relations with his daughter-in-law, it was consensual, and he felt wronged. Shortly after, he was found dead with a note claiming his innocence. Immediately after his wife's death, Young-hak contacted a TV station to garner sympathy and even filmed a memorial video. He went as far as uploading a creepy video of his wife's lifeless body and himself embalming her. Did she really jump on her own? His behavior didn't seem like that of a grieving husband. Just 3 days after her death, he posted an ad and photos on an adult chat site looking for a new live-in girlfriend. On the day his wife died, CCTV footage captured Young-hak acting far from a grieving husband. He and his daughter came downstairs 3 minutes after the fall, just before the ambulance arrived. Instead of riding with the ambulance, Young-hak just made phone calls. Yet, in front of the camera, he spoke tearfully about her death. The next day, he was casually seen cleaning his wife's bloodstains. When she fell, Young-hak's wife had her top rolled up and part of her bottom clothing rolled down. However, CCTV footage before the fall showed her clothes weren't loose enough to slip off that easily. Did she undress herself before jumping? Young-hak immediately adjusted her wife's clothes when he came downstairs. At the time of the fall, she had a head injury, and Young-hak claimed he hit her with a pesticide cap out of frustration when she talked about killing herself. There were so many suspicious points, but ultimately, the case of his wife was closed as a self-inflicted death. The most shocking revelation came when the police searched Young-hak's home. They discovered numerous disturbing videos on his computer hard drive and phone, including videos of his wife, Mrs. Choi. Footage of Mrs. Choi engaging in sexual activities with other men was found on the cloud linked to Young-hak's phone. It was revealed that Young-hak had forced his wife into sex work. He had set up a brothel and coerced his wife into participating, filming her with other men and uploading the videos to adult sites for profit. And while doing this, he publicly cried and posted memorial videos for his wife. Can you imagine a more diabolical person? Mrs. Choi met Young-hak when she was young and endured severe domestic abuse throughout her life. She lived in complete subjugation to him until her tragic death. It seems likely that his daughter, like her mother, was also completely controlled by him, which may explain her involvement in his crimes. Based on the profiling results, Lee-yeon's attachment to her father, Young-hak, goes far beyond the normal affection a child has for a parent. Psychologically, she is said to be completely dependent on him. This extreme bond was partly due to their shared rare disease, and also because Young-hak held complete control over their finances. From a very young age, Yaeon was involved in her father's schemes, leading her to see him as her entire world. So whether she liked it or not, she participated blindly in the crimes because she believed it was what her father wanted. During the police investigation, Yaeon showed a reluctance to acknowledge any wrongdoing or moral failings on her father's part. She couldn't bear to hear anything negative about him, strongly defending him, saying, "My father isn't that kind of person," and he had no choice. This reaction really shows the need for continuous psychological treatment and separation from her father and his family. Profilers concluded that Yaeon lacks any personal value judgment regarding the case. Her voluntary involvement in actions beyond her father's instructions and her behavior in messages sent to friends indicate that her participation was not just out of fear of her father or self-preservation. Her mindset resembles Stockholm Syndrome and symptoms seen in child soldiers, shaped during a crucial period of personality development under extremely abnormal circumstances. On January 30th, 2018, the prosecution sought the death penalty for Lee Young-hak in relation to the Molar Daddy murder case. Surprisingly for his daughter, who was a minor over the age of 14 and also charged as an accomplice, they requested a long-term sentence of 7 years and a short-term sentence of 4 years. In his final statement, Young-hak expressed deep apologies, shedding tears, but he also claimed he was treated unfairly during the investigation, which caused controversy. His lack of genuine remorse led to him being sentenced to death on February 21st, 2018. His daughter received a sentence lower than the prosecution's request, with a long-term sentence of 6 years and a short-term sentence of 4 years. Young-hak appealed, and on September 6, 2018, his sentence was reduced from the death penalty to life imprisonment. He further appealed, but the Supreme Court dismissed it on November 29, 2018, finalizing his life sentence. It is unclear whether his daughter served the full term of her sentence, but a broadcast in 2023 reported that she had already been released. Among netizens, this case is often talked about as a perfect example of underdogma gone wrong. It shows that just because someone is disabled or in a tough situation doesn't automatically make them a good person. The idea that people who are struggling or poor are always virtuous comes from exaggerated welfare policies and political campaigns aimed at getting votes from the poor. In reality, the underprivileged people can also harbor resentment and hatred, while there are plenty of wealthy people who are honest and have good relationships. So thinking that poverty equals goodness and wealth equals evil is just a stereotype. Young-hak took full advantage of this misconception, making himself look like a virtuous underdog. The public saw him as an angelic figure without questioning it. He used his underdog effect to his benefit before the murder case and even tried to use it to get a lighter sentence afterward. But of course, we shouldn't use this case to generalize that the underprivileged are potential offenders and rich people are always right. There are plenty of studies and examples that show the opposite. Our hearts go out to the victim and her family who have suffered immensely. Let's remember to look beyond appearances and remain critical of stereotypes, always seeking the truth. Thank you for watching, and please stay safe and vigilant.